So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madhupali Sugandhika Kure, and I am serving as a senior lecturer in German language at the Department of Modern Languages, University of Kelaniya in Sri Lanka. So before I begin, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the ALTA team for awarding me this scholarship, which made my presence here possible. It is a great honor to have this opportunity to share my research to such a distinguished international audience. So today I'll be discussing enhancing professional language competence through simulated tasks with a focus on German tourism education in Sri Lanka. To give you a better understanding of the context of the study, I will provide a simple overview of the German language education in Sri Lanka. So German is taught in more than 60% of the schools in Sri Lanka, and in most of these schools, German is started from grade 6 onwards. There are also certain PASH schools which are supported and funded by the German Cultural Institute, where German language can be started from a very early age. The students can also learn German for GCE ordinary level as well as for GCE advanced level examinations. So these two are the two main national school exams in Sri Lanka. So GCE ordinary level takes place in grade 11 and GCE advanced level examination takes place in grade 13. When it comes to higher education, BA and BA honors in German degree programs are offered at two state universities. One is the University of Sabaragamuwa and the other one is the University of Kelaniya, where I'm currently working. University of Kelaniya holds its own reputation as the oldest and one of the pioneering educational institutes in Sri Lanka to offer German degree programs. At the University of Kelaniya, for this academic year, we have more than 270 students registered for the first year BA degree program. So this shows the growing demand for German language learning within the higher education system. Apart from that, we have also several vocational training centers where German is offered for professional purposes. But what we have observed within the last 5 years is that there is a significant transformation in the German language education. Especially vocational training combined German language skill development has gained a significant attention. One of the main reasons for this growing demands were the expectations of the German language learners to pursue dual education programs in Germany. And apart from that, the second reason is the importance of German language as a foreign language within the travel and tourism sector. Because the travel and tourism sector in Sri Lanka are offering interesting job opportunities for German language learners. So tourism is one of the main foreign income sources for Sri Lankan economy. In 2025 only, Sri Lanka has earned more than 302 billion and 22 US dollars from tourism. So because of this, as a result of this, the industry is offering interesting job opportunities for German language learners. However, this does not mean having basic German language, the knowledge of basic German language grammar and vocabulary is sufficient, because we are constantly receiving complaints from industry professionals that although our graduates are fluent in language, they lack the professional skills which they need to use the language to cater the demands of the industry. So with this in mind, in 2023, we introduced a course unit which specifically trains the German learning undergraduates to enhance their German language skills to cater the travel and tourism sector. So as you can see, the title of the course code is 33555. So the last digit of the course code indicates the credit value. According to the Sri Lankan Quality Assurance Framework, 1 credit is equal to 50 notional hours. So here we have 5 credits, which means to complete this course unit, a student should complete 250 notional hours. So these notional hours are again divided into lecture hours, practical hours, field visit hours, and self-study hours. The course content is structured around 3 learning pillars. When it comes to assessment and evaluation, The assessment and evaluations are based on both formative and summative assessments. As formative assessments, we have oral presentations, written assignments, and also mid-semester assessments. So based on the competency level of the learning group, the lecturer can decide what type of assessments, what kind of formative assessments he or she is intending to use. As the final assessment, there is a written examination at the end of the second semester. So basically, 50% will be calculated from formative assessments and 50% will be calculated from summative assessments. So the final grade will be given out of 100. So as we were more aimed at constructing our assessments according to as we were more focusing on making our assessments more practice-oriented, we decided to adopt the test-taker assessment method. So according to Buckman and Palmer, when using test-taker assessments, learners are considered as active participants, and it prioritized task-based performance and authentic communication over the testing of isolated grammar and vocabulary. That is exactly what we wanted through our course unit to do. So as the theoretical framework, I've used the action-oriented approach by Picardo and North. So again, this approach helps us to use the language more naturally, and according to this approach, the assessments should focus more on professional working environments, which means the assessment should mirror the real world environments. So as we know, most of our students are very fluent in German language, but what was lacking in them was the opportunities to use the theoretical knowledge in a professional working environment. So the focus of the conceptual framework to bridge the gap between theory and practice, where we give the learners an opportunity to use their knowledge in a practical professional learning environment. So based on this, the main objective of the research was to investigate the effectiveness of simulated tourism tasks in enhancing students' German language use and professional competence. So the research was aligned under 3 research questions. First one is, how do simulated tourism tasks enhance students' authentic use of German and professional skills? And the second one was, what were the students' perceptions of the task authenticity, their role, and the assessment process? And finally, the third research question was, what challenges or improvements do students identify in performing these tasks? So I followed a qualitative research design, and 35 students who are following the course units were taken as the research sample. And after conducting the assessment, a semi-structured interview was used to collect data, as well as the observations of the lecturers after the assessment was also taken into consideration during the data analysis. And the data were finally analyzed through the content analysis method. Yes, so this is the assignment process. So basically there were 35 students. So these 35 students were divided into 6 groups. So each group was assigned a tourist site in Colombo. And during the classroom session, a worksheet was provided with useful phrases and guidelines which assist the learners for their presentation. And we also conduct several simulated group roles during the classroom session so that they will be well prepared before the final presentation. They were given 2 weeks timeline to visit this place, to collect information, to interview the locals who are working there. And also, they were explained what were the expectations we were having through this task, and what are the marking rubrics are, and how they will be evaluated. During the presentation, the students should conduct a mini tour guide session where they describe the place in German And the lecturers also acted as tourists, asking questions and evaluating the students. And finally, they also had to design a tourist brochure in German. So this was the marking rubric we used to evaluate this assessment. As you can see, 20 marks were allocated for the tourist brochure, and these were the performance standards which we use for the assessment components. Okay, so this slide presents students' perceptions of authentic language usage in simulated context. So when asked whether the task encouraged them to use the German language more naturally and authentically compared to traditional classroom assessments, students reported that communication was prioritized over grammatical accuracy. And another question which we asked during the interview session was how they responded to pronunciation or grammatical mistakes during the presentation. Students explained that they usually continued speaking to maintain fluency. So they also mentioned that they focused more on maintaining the flow of communication rather than grammatical accuracy, which reflects more natural and authentic use of language. It was noted that the students have also developed all 4 skills of language learning through this task, and in addition to that, they have developed several professional and job-oriented skills such as presentation skills, confidence to use the German language in real communication, and also teamwork and problem-solving skills. In addition to that, apart from that, they have also developed several research and information retrieval skills, because they had to refer several online sources in order to do selective reading and gather information to decide the tourist brochures. And also, they have learned how to transfer information into structured contents. When it comes to learner experience and engagement, students have mentioned that they really enjoyed this task and they found it really memorable, because while they were practicing in these tourist sites, some of the students have met the tourists, and the tourists have actually thought they were real tour guides. So they have presented their task to the tourists before the final assessment. And certain students have also used some strategies to handle the answers, especially when giving answers to questions. They have used certain strategies. For an example, when the lecturers were asking questions, the students have taken time using certain phrases. For an example, there was one student who was responding like, when we ask a question, this student said, das ist eine gute Frage, oder das ist eine interessante Frage. Viele Touristen fragen das just because the student wants to save time in order to find an answer. So these were strategic behaviors of students which they have used when answering questions. But still, there were some students who were very nervous and were scared to use the language, but overall, the students have increased their motivation and confidence. Certain challenges and recommendations were also mentioned by the students. One of the main challenges were that there are environmental and logistical constraints, and it was difficult to coordinate the time with the other lectures because we conduct this assessment at the end of the semester. So that was just before the final examinations. So there was a lot of stress for the students to manage time to get prepared themselves for the examinations. And also, they found the feedback of the lecturers to be very constructive, and they have mentioned that the feedback was very useful for them to identify their mistakes and to improve them and to learn from them. And as the recommendations, they have suggested it would have been better if we given them more time for preparations. From the lecturer's point of view, the students have engaged in this task very enthusiastically and energetically, and they have demonstrated strong commitment and preparation. And also, the students have collaborated well during the final presentations. They have helped each other when answering questions. So that was also a positive remark from the side of from the students. As areas for improvement, the lecturers have mentioned that it is needed to give more formative feedbacks for the language learners, but still in certain groups, some passive learners were identified. Although we have practiced this activity for this assessment, we have done a lot of activities during the classroom sessions, but still we have observed that there were certain passive learners. Yes, so in conclusion, simulated tasks encourage authentic, spontaneous communication with students prioritizing meaning over grammatical accuracy. And also, it supports the learners to enhance all four language skills as well as several industry-specific skills. And it also increased the student engagement, their confidence, and motivation. So these were the challenges which we've identified. I actually mentioned them earlier, and these were the pedagogical implications. It was suggested that it is better if we can prepare the students more during the teaching sessions, and it is also important that we give them structured guidance and more preparation time. So task-centered, test-taker-centered, task-based assessments are highly effective for developing professional language competence because they are authentic and real-life oriented, and they engage learners to actively participate and train their skills to prepare themselves for the job market. So such tasks are most successful with active learners, especially if the learning group is very active, the outcomes would be more successful. Although these assessments are time-consuming for lecturers in terms of planning, guidance, and coordination, they are highly productive as students learn through active engagement in meaningful real-world tasks. Overall, they promote not only language development, but also professional and soft skills with an engaging and enjoyable learning environment. So now we have come to the most interesting part of the presentation, I would like to share some of the photos of my students engaging in this task. So you can see, I think, how much effort they have put into this task and how much they are enjoying this assessment, because normally in the traditional classroom setting, the students would not engage a written assessment like this. And as the teacher, it was quite rewarding to see how the students practice their skills to become professional tour guides in German. So these were some of the brochures which they've designed during the assessment. So these were some of the references I've used for my study. So with that, I think I've come to the end of the presentation. So thank you very much, Alta, once again for awarding me the scholarship and giving me the opportunity to share my research. And thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you. Okay, so if anyone has questions, then you can ask now.
Everything perfectly. There's a question. Hi. Thank you for this presentation. Maybe I didn't hear it, but could you clarify which was the criteria for this kind of assessment?
Criteria means you want the assessment criteria or the marking criteria?
Assessment criteria.
Okay, assessment criteria means actually this was a group work, and this was done for a specific course unit which we designed, where the undergraduates can enhance their professional skills related to travel and tourism sector. So they were actually German language learning undergraduates who were following the BA honors degree program. So this is a kind of a formative assessment, and there were 35 students, so the students were divided into groups. So each group was assigned a specific tourist destination. So the students were given time to visit the place, to collect information, and final assessment was to do a role play actually with the lecturers. So the lecturers play the role of the tourist, and the students play the roles of German tour guides.
So, sorry, so the role play was one-to-one, right? Like one was the guide and...
Yes, actually, all the 5 students in the group, they divide the topics. For an example, if they are visiting a museum, and then one student is present in the historical part, and the other one is describing the artifacts, like that. So the lecturers are asking questions, and they are evaluating the students.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. You mentioned somewhere in the slides that the total course delivery was 250 hours.
Yes.
When you designed the course, did you consciously also pattern it or consider the CEFR to kind of like anyway identify at which level the students should achieve in order to finish the course successfully?
Yes, exactly. Actually, they were second-year BA German honors degree students. So normally when they come to the BA honors second-year degree program, this learning group had actually B1 to B2 language proficiency level according to CEFA. And in Sri Lanka, when we design curriculums, we are doing it according to the Sri Lankan quality assurance framework. It is like the instructional manual which we use when we are designing and also revising curriculums. There we have all the information, which degree programs and which academic courses belongs to which levels. For an example, there are 12 levels from 1 to 12. So first 2 levels are the foundation levels where the school, state national school exams are belonging. And then we have levels from 3 to 6 where the undergraduate degree programs belongs. And then the final stage is 6 to 12 where the postgraduate degree programs are belong. So it is mentioned there that how the credit limits are divided, and according to the credits, how many lecture hours should be covered for each of these course units. But apart from that, we are also focusing on the CEFA when designing curriculum. So these students, they had B1 to B2 language level.